In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can create this video thumbnail in Adobe Photoshop. Something very basic and simple that you can use on your video, on your YouTube channel. Essentially, we're going to break this down to a simple process. We can find a background image and we're going to create a duotone effect using a gradient map. We're going to cut out a person, make them grayscale, and add a bit of shadowing and outlining to it, and then add a bit of text over the top. So the way we do this, we head into Photoshop, and we're going to File, into New, and I'm going to create an image which is 1920 pixels wide by 1080 pixels tall. And now I've got this image from Pexels I want to use. I've copied it off to the right. I'm going to actually just paste that in place, hitting Control V. So pasting that in place, so edit, paste, and I'm going to just hit Control T or edit and free transform to simply grab these handles and drag it to the size I need it to and get the image about where I want it. The first step, now I have this background image layer, I'm going to create a gradient map. So I'm going to go to my layers panel, which if you can't see, head to Windows and Layers. I'm going to click on the image and this little circle, that's sort of like half white, half black. I'm going to click on that and add a gradient map. Now, at the moment, it just looks black and white because what's happening is it's choosing all the dark areas of the image to be black down this end, all the light areas of the image to be white at this end. And you'll see if I reverse it, we have the reverse effect. What I can do is double click on this gradient here, and I can pick one from this list, such as a purple and a blue, something like that. I can even make my own. So I have this here, I can click on this pink. Maybe I don't like that. I'm going to choose this sort of greeny color here, make it a little bit more bluey. And over here on the right, I'm going to just click this sort of purpley color, go for more of a blue color, adjust that a bit till I'm happy with it. Maybe we'll go about there. And the gradient will actually convert that image into those two colors. And if I really get really fancy in the middle, I can add another gradient and choose a slightly different color again to get sort of like 3 color effect, or I can just remove that and stick with the green. So we've got our background and we're pretty happy with the background. The next step is we want to add in a photo of the person. So I've copied another image, once again off pexels.com, and I'm going to paste that image. You can also save that and go to File and Place, but again I've simply gone Edit, Paste, or Control V, and I'm just going to again hit Edit, Free Transform, or Control T, or Command T, and just get this person in the position I want them in, about there. But I do want to cut them out. So the way I do that is I go to Select and Subject. And you see my subject has been selected. So now with the layer highlighted over here, I click this box with a circle in it to mask that selection. So that's a pretty good result, and you might find sometimes you use images like this, you don't get quite as simple a result as that. If you have any issues with that, one thing you can do instead of doing things that way is you can actually go through with your pen tool over here on the left, click pen tool, and you can actually physically trace the outline of what you want. It's a lot more longer process and takes a bit of feeling out. I have a complete video on how to do this process with a little more precision. I'll link to that in the description below. Well, I'm essentially clicking and dragging these handles to create curves and angles, and I make sure I go straight back to the start to complete that path. And then on my layers panel, I click on the Paths tab, or under Windows, if you don't see that, activate Paths. I control click on the path to create my selection that way. And that's when, if I go back to layers, just turn off this shape, I can click on my person and click this mask section here. But for now, Select and Subject has done a pretty good job. So for now, I'm going to go over and delete the shape layer. So clicking the shape layer and clicking the bin icon. Now the thing is, we do need to tidy this up a little bit. It looks great right now the way it is, especially with the hair, but for the effect we're after, if we want to add that outline, we want to clean it up a little bit, because when we add that in, it's not going to look Great. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to double click on the layer just in the blank area to bring up the blending options, or I can right click and go blending options, but I find it easier just to find a blank space in that layer, double click and bring up those blending options there. I'm going to go into stroke over here, and you can see I've added a stroke in, and it looks a bit funny around the hair. It's just a bit thicker in that area than it is around the arms. But I want to make sure I have a few things. Position is on the outside. If it's on the inside, we're going to get an even funnier result. Center can be a little bit funny again. So we want to make sure we go outside with our position. And looking at the harder edges, we're going to adjust that until we get the thickness that we want, which is like that. And of course, we can change the opacity if we want to, but we're pretty happy with that right now. We click OK. So what we need to do is tidy up some of the hair so we can clean up some of that stroke. Now one of the best ways to do that, we can actually get our brush tool. If you hover over your layer here and click on the actual mask section, I can now go through with my eraser, pump that size up a little bit, get the hardness high up around sort of 80 or 90, maybe even 93 or so, and I can just sort of get in there, paint that up. Now I have the flow set to 62. Turn that up to 100, make sure everything is at 100 so you get a nice crisp result, and just sort of use your best judgment there. So you can see things are starting to look a little bit more consistent. The hair might not be perfect, but for the effect we're after, it does the job. So we just sort of clean that up and erase. So I'm using if you look at where my tool is, I'm trying to just touch the edge of the hair with the edge of the brush, because that way I'm getting a better result in cleaning up some of the extra stuff around the hair without deleting too much of the hair. So now we have this result here, and that looks pretty good. One thing I like to do to make this black and white is you can convert it to a smart object. That will sort of also flatten well, not flatten, but it'll actually add that stroke into the smart object. But because we're just going to black and white, what I like to do is to right click blending options, or once again double click for blending options. I simply go to color overlay, and that's blue at the moment. I can turn the blend mode to color, and it makes her blue, but I actually want to, I've actually changed the layer blend mode. So I go down to color overlay, click on color overlay. Where it says blue here, I'm going to change the normal next to that to color. And you'll see that she is now blue. But we want her to look black and white, so we simply click on the blue, make it gray or black, and we get that grayscale effect. And we can even change the opacity if we want a little bit of color in there, or we want to just let it go altogether. So now we have our grayscale person. And going back into blending mode, double clicking here, we don't actually have to exit and re-enter like I have a bunch of times. I'm going to go down to drop shadow, turn that on, and you can see I've got a bit of a drop shadow showing on the right there. But if I click on drop shadow, I can adjust a few things. So I can't really show you the whole lot, but if I move that over here, I can change the distance. I can add some noise or remove some noise, but I can change the angle a bit if I want to. I'm going to move it around the other side, change the distance, and just make that spread a bit more. Get it looking the way I want. So now we have our person, and we have a drop shadow behind them to lift them up from the background. Now, one thing, I'm going to readjust this gradient map a little bit because it's just a little bit too bright. So I'm going to click on the gradient map and double click on the circle icon. Click on this. I'm just going to grab this green, go more towards the blue, darken it up a bit. But I'm actually going to move this center across, so that way we get a bit more of the darker color creeping in. And now we get to add our text, which is pretty simple. We click on this little text icon here, and we simply type. And because we're going to have the ultimate and then home office and big, we're going to type the ultimate, preferably not in that font. We'll choose something like Poppins. The ultimate I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. So with this font, I'm going to stick with Poppins on this one. You can download this from Google Fonts. I'll put that in the description below, a link to this font. It's a great font, but I want this to be a bit thicker so we can read it. So I'm going to go semi-bold. So we've got the ultimate, and I type again, home, office. So we got our text on there now. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to, on my layers panel over here, hold down Control to select both layers. And then I hit Control T, or once again, Edit and Free Transform. And I hold down Control again on this little sort of handle on the right here, and you see a little arrow up here. And when I let go, it disappears. So hold down Control or Command, and I'm going to get that little bit of a slant that way. So now I can take the ultimate, move it down here. I click on Home Office, move it down again. And I'm going to go to where it says semi-bold up here and make it black. So we get a much thicker Home Office font. I'm going to change the color to white. And now that I'm not happy with that line height, I want things to be a little closer. So I go over here, next to where it says 3D, there's a little character panel. I click on that. You see we've got some options here. Now this one with the two A's stacked on top of each other with the arrow, I'm going to add a number in there. I can see on the left, my text is 123 points high. So I'm going to start by just typing in 123 and seeing how that looks. I'd like it to be a little bit closer, so I'll go 110. And just adjust until I'm happy. Let's say 105. That might be a little too close. No, that's good enough. Okay, so now I'm actually going to hit Control T again. So I've got that where I want. I click on the layer, Control T or Command T to transform again. Actually, I'm going to go Edit, Free Transform, because Control T is not working for me right now. And I'm going to upsize this to about that big. Once again, I double click in the blank area to bring up my blending options. Choose a drop shadow. And I make my adjustments again. So at the moment, this drop shadow is a little too far away. So I bring the distance back a bit. Click OK. Now the ultimate, I actually don't mind the black. I'm going to stick with the black on the ultimate. It looks pretty good. So what I'm actually going to do from there is I'm going to add a bit of a white outline. So I'm going to right click again. I'm going to double click again on the blank area of the layer panel to bring up layer style options. And I'm going to add that same stroke in there. We've got our white, but I'm just going to sort of make it a bit, if I click on the stroke, make sure that you click on this because I've missed that a few times. Make that a little bit thinner. Then I'm going to go down to drop shadow again. But this time I want the drop shadow to be white to highlight the black of the text. So while I've got the drop shadow here, I make sure the blend mode is on normal. It could be on multiply, so pop that up to normal. And I click on the black and make that white. And then I can just adjust a few things, like maybe the blur is a bit too full on. Maybe I do bring that distance back a bit. And I click OK. And we essentially have our video thumbnail. We've got a picture of someone there, we've got a background. Obviously, now this might not be the exact thumbnail that's best for this particular topic, but it shows you how you can get that basic effect when creating a thumbnail. So when I'm ready, I go to File, Export, and Save for Web. I choose JPEG. I can zoom out with my zooming. At the moment it's plus, I hold down Alt and zoom out. I'm happy with that. The file size is 400 kilobytes, so I might take the quality down from 72 to about 54, 270 kilobytes, close enough. I save my image. And now I'm done. And now we've created our video thumbnail. So that's a very simple way showing you how to create that thumbnail in Photoshop. So if you want to get that effect in the future, you can actually use this multiple times and change things such as your gradient map to get different background color effects, obviously different photos for the person, different fonts. You can get a whole bunch of different looks and styles just from this one approach to building a particular type of design for your thumbnail. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. And also if you want more videos like this where I show you how to design things such as YouTube video thumbnails and other designs, Instagram images, things like that, consider subscribing to see more in the future. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.